Cala sits at the intersection of three very different industries. So kind of the neuro, pharma, biotech world in a lot of what we're doing on the neuro side. We're also a hardware wearables company. We also are very deep in sort of data science and cloud. And if you think about it, when I look at, for example, our senior management team, we have people who come everywhere from, Medtronic to Apple to, it's a very diverse team. And that's actually one of the things that makes it incredibly strong. It also means that people come in with very different expectations, very different backgrounds. I pulled out this figure from a recent book I've really been enjoying is Frederic Laloux's Reinventing Organization. And he basically frames the leadership styles through sort of a social evolutionary perspective, going all the way back from impulsive red organizations, from sort of tribes and militias, and points out that in a moment of anarchy, you probably want to be led by a red leader, by someone who is leading from a place of fear, for example. Then he traces the leadership styles through conformism, through this is sort of the command and control mentality. You still see it in certain organizations, perhaps like the military, the Catholic Church. There is a conformism. You see this in things like school uniforms for kids. As that then moved on into the dominant theory of today's sort of Fortune 500 companies, which is achievement orange, which is the idea of command but don't control. You see this in things like bonus incentives, set what the goals are, but then let people act in their own way, let them solve the problem, and then reward them when they do that. More recently, moving into pluralism green, which is the example from that book is comparing United Airlines and Southwest, and pointing out that they're very different in their manuals for flight attendants, where United will actually define, here are how you handle these various situations, whereas Southwest took a bit of a different, looser around the edges, but basically said, make your customers happy, and then put more of the control kind of at the edge of the organization in terms of how to do that. Evolutionary teal is kind of letting go of your ego, and if anyone can, figure out how to really be an evolutionary teal organization, love to talk with you about that. So I would just say, when you look at a leadership style, as a founder, it's really easy to kind of look at yourself and say, well, what is my organization going to be? Are we going to be an achievement orange organization or a pluralistic organization? But at the end of the day, your organization is going to have people who come from all of these backgrounds, especially when you bridge industries and generations and, cultural backgrounds. So you really need to build a culture of respect that actually welcomes, celebrates, and builds on, people bringing their best selves in order to work together. I'm also a big believer in strengths-based leadership. So the idea, and I can't tell you how many times I've had, two employees who, when you actually sit down and really talk with them about where is their Venn diagram of what they love doing, what they're passionate about, where their skills are, and what the company needs, you realize they just kind of need to swap jobs. So you'll realize that one person is not loving what they're doing and really wants to do something else, and there's another person who's exactly the opposite. So from a management lens, from a how you get things done, I often think, I often find myself kind of thinking about how can we raise people to be their best by focusing on strengths, and then looking at that pluralism and diversity of sort of what builds a team and what builds an organization.